Good morning, advanced art class. Let's see. Oops, hit that button. How are you guys all this morning? Everybody doing well?
Fantastic.
Feeling better, Cole?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we were kind of hanging out waiting for you, and I was munching a bagel.
What type of bagel?
Onion bagel, of course.
Mm,
I don't know if there's any other. Well, it was store-bought. Well, it wasn't like a go out to one of those fancy places one to get like a cinnamon crunch bagel. So today is May 7th, and we are looking at how our expressive self-portrait's going.
I got a question about that actually.
Yep.
So if our facial expressions aren't as expressive as we'd like them to be, can the background have more of a expression, I guess?
Yes, definitely. So you want to remember, we want to tie in a full picture. So your background should help either amplify or it shouldn't, your background shouldn't be visually distracting, but it should help amplify what's happening in your scene. So, for those of you, again, so people who are struggling to do correct proportions of face, do your best face and then let your background tell your expression. So you don't have to have it as a facial expression. Here, I'll show you. I did this is part of a contest I'm entering. It's for ZBrush, but I did some Photoshop coloration on it. So the background in this is just a gradient. It means nothing. And that's so that you draw into the face itself. I went through and inside the little broccoli hair, I went through and emphasized spots of color, again, using color to kind of help bounce people through. So there's some yellow greens, there's some turquoise greens, there's some blue greens in there. And then when you come down to the face, I'm using the yellow greens and everything to kind of highlight and pull it from the hair down into the face. And then there's just going to be just those little splotches of color. So teeth done, and actually those teeth, they look white, but they're not. They're off-white just a little. They're a little bit of they're actually a gray. And then we throw in some pinks and reds for the mouth, and then the blue eyes. Now, red complementing green, so that should become a really kind of a draw to the whole face. The skin, this is just a colored test. So the skin will be completely done in all greens and yellow greens with like some blue undertones for shadows when it's all said and done. But for right now, I just want to see, are the colors popping? So that's a base kind of layout green done in ZBrush, and then Photoshop for the other colors, because I don't want the teeth to jump out too much. I don't want the eyes to jump out too much. The eyes aren't, they're blue with a blue highlight inside of them, which is complementary. So it's in the analogous family with green, and then reds are meant to pop. The whole idea behind it is when you're working on, especially if you're going to work in color, do the colors relate to the expression? Does the background emphasize the expression, or is the background just holding place in what's happening around you? So you want to make sure that you're kind of planning through those things. Again, with the exception of Olivia, if you're not done on the 8th, it's no big deal. I'm trying to tighten down grades, because it seems that unless I send out a reminder with a, hey, you haven't turned this in 0, people just don't turn stuff in. So yesterday, the effect of of adding some zeros to people's grades netted me a lot more things. So that makes me happy dog. So I can grade stuff. We are going to, I want to talk a little bit about the open drawing today, just because I want to make sure that we're crystal on that. And then I think we'll be in pretty good shape. So anything else on expressive self-portraits? Anybody have any issues? Anybody need some guidance or some tips or some helpers? So I see a yeah from Olivia.
Okay, so like when you're doing like a pouting expression, like when your cheeks are puffed up, how do you like show that the cheeks are like puffed up or like poking out?
Like this?
No, like when you have a like bubble in your mouth. Yeah.
So man, how can I? So I'm scooting closer. I don't think this lets me zoom. It does not. Okay, so I have ambient light coming down from the top right now. So that's why I have light illumination here and shadow here. So watch cheekbone, and this is all skin in through there. So my planes, cheek plane, eye socket outside of your ocular cavity. You have the bone that's on the bottom, so that catches light. So that's a plane like this. And then you have a plane and a plane. This one catches light because my lights are over there. This one isn't catching light because it planes back. So when I change that surface, when I bowl this out, watch how the shadows change. And that's really what you're going to have to do. So highlight goes here, and then a highlight comes out there. And then a shadow increases around the surface. And this shadow goes from flat, and it's going to bulge out. And as it bulges out, you're going to have to change the direction of your pencil. So if I were drawing this, one direction line, one direction line, one direction line, this might go to a flat just across the front, and this would go horizontal or vertical, and this would be diagonal. But when I do this, I'm rounding the surface, so therefore I have to round my tool. So again, so it's just going to be the direction that you move your pencil to make those things happen.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. If you need more, I mean, I can always, hooked it on a ruler. I can always show you with that, because you can see planes, plane, 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 and your planes change. You go from flat edges to round edges. And if you're having a hard time with it, it would be worthwhile to take 5 or 10 minutes, draw yourself circles, and turn those circles into spheres with shading and practice. So in your picture, whichever direction the light comes from, your circle's light gets that direction, and then as you shade into a sphere, that's going to help you, because that's basically what you're doing. When you fill your cheeks with air or lots of food, you puff them, they round out. And it's equal pressure, so it makes a good sphere. It's not like you have something stuck in one part of your mouth where you're hiding gum or a Tootsie Roll or something. So anything else on portraits that I can help you guys? We're gonna say we're golden. Hey Cole, nudge Abby so she wakes up. She's sleeping in the corner there.
I'll go run to her house, knock on the door. Give her Corona.
Just use a squirt gun.
Yeah, please don't.
Okay, so let's talk about our final open drawing, and we want to have some sketches done for that. Oops, that's the wrong class. I was wondering what that assignment was. So for the sketches are going to be, like a lot of your things, your sketches are going to be included in your final grade. So basically, it'll add or subtract about a letter off of a grade. So what we're looking for is what do we mean by, and what do you think I mean by a free drawing that's going to show me what you've learned? Can you give me that in some hardcore values?
Words are hard.
Words are our friend, though.
Holy, got anything to say?
I don't know.
You don't know? So let's go this way then. For your free drawing, what have you started thinking about doing?
My dogs.
Okay, so pets are great. Now, why would you pick pets, Carson?
Because I experimented with drawing the big Great Dane named Lucas, and I was pretty proud of myself considering I'd never done a portrait of a dog in only colored pencil. So I want to see how that would be with long-haired dogs, technically, because they're long-haired, and I feel like I could do good with colored pencil and achieve what I wanted.
So a couple key things that I hear in there. One, we've done one and we want to see if we can improve our skill. Two, we're going to experiment with texture, because long hair versus a short hair, you're going to have to deal with what happens with that hair. And then three, the expansion of, and I would think it's going to be an expansion of how you're using the color pencils in a range. So from light to darks, mixing of colors, blending of values. So inside of there, when I evaluate it, I'm looking at, you know, does the dog have like funky eyes and stuff? Are your proportions correct? Which to me is drawing, you know, when you started drawing, we worked hard to get our proportions in the right spot. For this, I'm looking more for development of texture. Does it look like long hair fur? I'm looking at development of color range. When it comes in, if your dog is black, is it really, when you add a value, is it really just black, or are you adding other things to it? How are you emphasizing that coloration? And then three, I'm looking at how do you play your value scheme in with your technical skill. So do your values become more important, or do they work harmoniously with what you're trying to do? And again, it's going to be developmental importance. So when I hear you say real dog, I think you're trying to do real looking, and I'm using air quotes down below. You're going for a realism, not an abstract, not a coloration, but you're going to try to do a real look to the creature. So realism is a style. So I would look for all of those things. I would expect that in your pre-sketches, you would list that down. And then at the end, it's not, if you made a change, if you said, hey, I was, you know, doing my sketches and I started my project and I decided to go, instead of just black fur, I did like a rainbow of colors, and I did the rainbow of colors because, and you can tell me why you made that change. That to me, as long as it's a logical reason why you did, then you're showing me, and you're showing me all the skills that I need, I think you're going to be great. On the other hand, if you say, I broke my black color pencil or I ran out, so I just decided to switch to orange in the middle of it, okay, that's a technical problem. I can live with that. Do you still do the oranges values the same as you were doing your black values? Do you have a full scale and full range? If you say, I just decided that I was bored, so I played with color and I hate it, then let's decide what's wrong with it. Is it the intensity of the color distracts from the picture? And again, if something goes wrong and you can explain to me, here's where I started, but this is how it ended up, and I really wanted to be at this point. If you can explain to me the difference, then that's still learning. So you're still showing me that you've learned and progressed. So final picture, the final picture, as long as it's the concept you're going for, that's all I worry about on that end. I'm not worried about you being the best. So out of everybody taking advanced drawing, I don't look at, okay, this one's the best, so it gets the highest grade. I'm looking at how does this person develop skill and improve themselves. So if you're already doing everything to point and you're okay, but you're keeping flat and steady because it's easy, I want you to push yourself, take that chance and move up. Yes, there's always going to be a chance to fail at the drawing, but I'm looking at learning from, not success in. On the other hand, if this was a studio and I looked out and said, hey guys, we have to get 10 pet sketches done by Friday because people are paying us, then that's a whole different thing. That's not about aesthetics, and that's not about learning. That's about income and making money. And we're not on the commercial end. We're on the learn end. All right.
Cool beans.
So anybody else, since Abby is awake, have you thought about it at all, Abs?
Yeah, I have a couple ideas.
Okay, so we're gonna pull that answer out into what's a couple ideas.
I was like, for my first idea, I was thinking of like my kindergarten picture and then a senior picture, so it's like right next to each other, just to show like, oh, childhood, and then oh my gosh, grown up.
So I like that too, because it's a physical representation of you changing. But to me, and I'm not saying I want to see like the one done in a more primitive style. To me, I want to see you address the issues, because this is your final project. So this is the kindergarten to senior year is the maturing of you physically. I want to see your finished project be the mature of your art time with ableist. So I like that idea. Are you going to do all graphite, or are you thinking any color?
Thinking about using some color.
So you could do a couple of ideas. You could do color emphasis. And if we think of Cole's expressive self-portrait, where he's looking in the mirror and he puts color to draw your attention, you could do like color eyes, color lips. You could do color spots to draw attention to specific areas, or you could do color infusions, where you go from mostly graphite and then slowly fade into color, or you could do it across the piece, or you could just do light emphasis color. I would say probably one of the bigger things I'm going to look at in this is a demonstration of controlling shading, lights to darks, and texture, because at this point, you guys should be able to show those different things. So hair texture versus skin texture versus clothes texture, there should be a transition through them for everybody.
Okay.
All right, Olivia, Cole, got anything for us?
Yeah, I'm still deciding if I want to do like another maybe 2 to 4 panels for like my comics. I was like really enjoying doing that, or deciding to pick one of my siblings to draw, because I love drawing them.
Both good choices. So I think what I would do is I think I would do, because you've already got your base idea, instead of sketching out the comic, I would maybe put down what you would do for plot points, or what you would emphasize into that. And then I would do a light sketch, like a 20-minute sketch or 10 minutes of a couple different, and draw out your siblings, and then see which one speaks to you more, which is going to give you a better example of improvement of your abilities in the class. And then that's the one I would go with. So, and I'm not saying that comics are limited, but comics can be limiting in the fact that you're doing cell shading, we're doing simplification of forms. So it might push better to do a sibling because it's going to be able to show off those things like textures, value, control of material. Cole, what you got for us?
Not much. Not much at all.
Have we started thinking about this yet?
I want to draw I think it's the Killing Joke cover, or one of them, the one with the camera.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to draw it.
So it's so you're gonna do like a fan tribute then.
Maybe. I just thought it'd be cool. I've always wanted to try it.
Are you gonna keep it the same or are you gonna change it somehow? I'm gonna look it up real quick.
I don't know. Because I used to draw all the time back in like middle school, just like superhero stuff, but I never got to do that.
So we're gonna share screen real quick. You're talking about this cover, right?
Yeah, that one.
So are you going to do it? So the question would be, do you do it in the original style? Or are you going to change it to yours? Are you going to replace things? For example, you could set it up to be you and maybe not so much jokery. And then if you did like your face all black and white, and then you could do like emphasis color through the hair and through some of the gloves, or you could do a reproduction of just the cover. Make sure you know your artist and your like release information, not just for copyright, but also just because there's one thing about someone who draws in another artist's style. But when you're doing that, you should give credit to the original. There is, and I've heard this a lot in this probably last year and a half. I've heard a lot of people say copying isn't the best form of flattery. It's a great way to practice your skills. If you see an artist that you like, and you go over and try to mimic what they do, one, make sure that you are giving them credit. You yourself know who the source of your information is. Two, don't necessarily limit yourself to just one person. Learn one person, try to do their style, try to become as good as they are, but then look at other artists who are either similar or whose styles you like and practice those as well, because eventually what's going to happen is that kind of learning is going to that process is going to help you learn not only what you like aesthetically, but then you're going to pull pieces from each one of them to develop your style. And people think, I know that there's a big, oh, well, that's just copying and anybody can copy. I can just Photoshop it. But there's a big difference between going online, copying a picture and dropping it down and then putting your name on it versus actually doing the process. Chuck Close talks about when he was in college, he did more Kandinsky's and played with Kandinsky's colors than Kandinsky himself. And the first time he had kind of a big New York show, and I'm not sorry, not Kandinsky, de Kooning. And de Kooning actually came to his show and he said, wow, it's great to meet, or de Kooning said, it's nice to meet somebody who's done almost as many de Koonings as I have, just as a kind of a joke. But there's a lot you can learn from that. So I think that's great. And when you look at it, and again, I will say, I think DC does that, especially for like their big graphic novels. They push the level of, especially early on, they were pushing the level of acceptable art. In other words, they weren't just taking a normal comic book cover. They were kind of having artists really push those abilities. So much so that in modern times, you have people who do nothing but covers. They're very good artists, but that's all they do is their cover artist. Probably, and I would think it's probably because the amount of time it takes to do the cover to a higher level is not fast enough for what they do for interior work. So I think that's a great idea. And if you do it all color, then you can show me your ability to shade and blend in color.
There's no ability.
See, I don't believe. So one of the things I think that people do is we revert back to being a little kid. So think about it. You're sitting there in school or at home, and you have your box of crayons. And as kids, we tend to, once we get assigned some control, you know, not necessarily coloring in the lines, but control. We take our blue crayon out and we do blue for sky, and we take out our green crayon and we do green for grass. And we're done. Because grass is green and sky is blue. And when I show it to somebody, they automatically know sky and grass. So our brain equates that, okay, acceptance of what we've done with correctness to what we've done. But as we mature, we go through. So one of the things all of you should do today is, before it snows tomorrow, is you should go out, and I want you to really look at grass. Really look at it. And when you see it, every blade of grass is going to be slightly different. The color, again, depending on its light source, depending on where it is. When you look at grass and you see the shadow from your house, or shadow from a car, or shadow from something sitting near the grass changes its value. It's blocked by light, but it doesn't become instantly black, or it doesn't become instantly gray. It doesn't lose its coloration. It has a color value change. And that's what I want you guys to look at today, is to really kind of study that, and then dig through your house and see if you can find some crayons, and then play with them a little bit and see what comes back. Because I think that the downside is when we look at it, and like looking at the Killing Joke cover, when you look at the Joker's coat, there's some from coat to gloves, they are in an analogous family. Here, we should probably show that. Let me see if that's a small cover. Let me see if I can find a good big cover of it. Boop-a-doop, boop-a-doop. That one's too washed out. Man. All right, we'll try this one. A lot of them are like only 500. All right, we'll try this one. This is probably the best. Most of them seem to be only like 500 pixels squared. So, same analogous color group, the red family, but you know, these are a slight tinge. You have the heavy emphasis, bright red, and this is a little bit different value in that. So a heavy emphasis on red. White and black are neutrals, browns are neutrals, but this is a very warm brown hat. So they're meant to sit around. The background, the gradient scale, neutral. So we have neutrals playing against intense color. And then of course, complementary color to red, green, but it's not just a grass green or a Kelly green. It's a semi. We have some turquoise in there. We have a little bit of mint for the highlight, and you can see these values being put in. If I'm doing this with colored pencil, I'm going to work from leaving areas white paper, and then slowly changing my values to go back. But when I get back into these areas, I might do a light layer of blue. I'm going further in. I may add in some purple values in with that green. It'll work. I just have to be careful because green is yellow and blue. Purple is red and blue. So they share the blue part, but the red and the yellow are going to they're going to mix, and I'm going to start to hopefully darken but not neutralize into browns. When I come through these gloves here, again, leaving some areas for whites and then slowly building up my values. This isn't intensity of pigment. And what I mean by that is it's not heavier pressure, it's different layers or different values. That cloth that I gave you at the beginning, if you still have that, or if you have an old t-shirt, you can use that to kind of pull some of your colors up. Use your eraser to come back and peel out some of this. Use a white pencil to go in and accent some of these lines. Really kind of play with your color. Definitely in through here is a blue tinge. You pick up a lot of little subtle blues so that the shadows are cool shadows, not necessarily a warm shadow. This is a harsh shadow, so it's just pure black. But when I come in through here, I have a nice gradient across. I go from this dark, almost maroon red to this very light pinkish red. And then I go back into a middle tone over on this side. And that gives me not only the change of surface, but also gives me a different kind of feel. The little line art helping to add to texture, because otherwise, and again, it's going to be tough with a comic, smooth skin, smooth coat, smooth hat. So the texture here is built by how the color is laid out, this splotchiness in color, these color values, how my line art works into it. So there's a lot of things you can do, but you're going to change pencils. You're going to have a lot of tools out with you. It's going to be a good solid week of work. A good 7 hours put into it, maybe 5.
Long time.
Whoa.
Sorry.
Have fun with it.
What was that, Abs?
So have fun with that.
Hey, you're the one who's doing kindergarten to now.
Yeah.
She'll do great.
Other than the fact that we don't get to hang out with each other, you guys have good, solid ideas, and you guys are working hard. You have some, you know what you're doing. If you need help while you're doing it, I've got help sessions. Grab a help session. Do whatever you have to do to be successful. What I really like is when you're done with this piece, I want a piece that you're proud enough that either you say, hey, mom, dad, or hey, you adult person in my life, why don't you buy me a frame? And it's something that maybe you take with you to college and you put up in your dorm room. I'd be cool with that. All right, so I think unless you guys want technical questions, we had a pretty successful day today.
Agreed.
All right, we're gonna stop recording there.